But it was just so cool to just be a part of the little group that watched the World Cup, but then even more to be part of the group. To be part of the group here, and just to see everyone from all these campus ministries and these cities be here. And it's just so wonderful. I think before we go on, I had some news that's been lied to me recently, that there's a brother here, by the name of Joshua, and poor thing, his dad is going to undergo heart surgery on Monday. And we have to pray for him. We have to pray for Joshua's dad, because his dad is open, and I think his dad has been looking at Bible studies, and this is our brother, guys. So I hope that, let's just take some time to pray, and really hope that we can send our thoughts to this family. So let's pray real quick. Father God, before we come to you, before we try to begin to open your word, we know that we need to pray. We know that it is only right to do so. And God, just to see Joshua be here, God, and give his heart is so encouraging, despite what's going on at home. And Father, I pray for his earthly father, that he can have a great recovery through the surgery that happens on Monday, God. Anything dealing with the heart can be so scary, Father. And we as his family want to welcome him just in our arms, God. We want to be that community that we know we ought to be. I pray that we can reach out to him, to Tusha, and we can really comfort him this time. Before we open your word, God, I pray that you speak through me, God, not as someone who knows anything, God, but someone who truly wants to do your will, Father. I pray that we sitting here in the congregation could really take your word to heart, God, that we can come out of this conference wanting to do something different with our lives. So we love you so much. We pray all these things in your son's name. Amen. Amen. Thanks for joining me, guys. But today we're going to talk about even greater discipleship. Okay? Now Harlem did an incredible job yesterday, didn't he? I mean, I was thinking, I was like, how do I call that? But what's so great is, and of course the Singaporeans, we had our 30th anniversary last week, right? So I'm sure all of you guys are thinking, whoa, all these lessons are coming to me. Boom, I'm still trying to process everything I heard last week. Right? Yeah. I know I am. And I think I was so inspired by what I learned last week, even yesterday, that this lesson really ties in with everything we learned. So don't feel overwhelmed about, oh, here we go, something brand new I have to take in. But this is really things that we ought to feel from the past week, and even just from yesterday. And I'm just so privileged. Haley's also going to speak with me. She's come all the way from Texas, and I'm so excited to have her share her thoughts on even greater discipleship. But together, we want to really praise God for everything that He's done in our lives. And get Mike to the fair. So we're going to look at an incredible passage here. Here we go. So the text today, we're going to look at the parable of the talents. You may think, discipleship? Wait, the parable of the talents, bro. Because the parable of the talents doesn't have the word disciple or discipleship at all. But whose words are they? Jesus' words. So we ought to look at them. And what's cool, before we get in here, what's cool about Matthew 25 is that Matthew 24 really sets the context, because Jesus is talking to his disciples. And his disciples ask him, Lord, when do we know the kingdom is going to come? That's what they ask. And Jesus tells them the signs. And really what he's saying is, we don't have time to go into it, but if you read the whole context, what you see is Jesus says, the truth is, man, you don't have to worry about the signs. You just have to be ready on your own. And the parable before this is the parable of the 10 virgins. And if you read that, obviously the great insight from that is, are you ready? Do you have a light that's burning? And I encourage you to read that on your own time. But what's cool is that this parable comes right after the parable of the 10 virgins. I read that parable, and then I read this parable separately pretty much all my life. I kind of see them as two different things. I never knew they were one after the other. So as I read it, I'm like, well, obviously they're connected. And as we look at it, but we're going to read this passage, and I want us to really have an open mind as to what this text says, because this text is so rich, and it really talks about what we ought to do with our lives. Again, It, which is the kingdom of heaven, will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to him. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his own ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received the 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled the account. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I've gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. Well done. We know this line, don't we? You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I paid you more. His master said, well done, good and faithful servant. Well done. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Notice the exact word-for-word response for the 2 first servants. Now check this out. The man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid. So I was afraid, and went out and hid your gold on the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed? Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I return, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him, give it to the one who has 10. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they will have will be taken from them. Throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, I don't know about you, but that scares me. It puts some fear in me, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's just so incredible, because what does Jesus say here? He teaches us how to be ready for the kingdom of God. This is the whole context, the whole point of the previous 2 chapters. You know how we stay ready? Jesus says, you be a steward with the resources that God has given you. Amen? Resources that God has given us. And that is discipleship. It is discipleship. It may not be discipleship defined explicitly, but that's what discipleship is. Because discipleship is all about denying yourselves and giving your life to God. And what does that entail? It entails of doing what? And so that is really the focus of this lesson today. And I want to go back and highlight part of verse 24 to 27. Now it says, the master and the third servant explains himself, and he says, I have sown where I know you're a guy who has sown where you've not scattered seed. That was a little confusing to me. I was like, all right, come on, man. I studied in America. I need some clarity. I'm not at NUS. I need some clarity. I need to go do some digging. NUS has got all these brilliant people, okay? But look at the Message version. This part, the Message version is very, very, it's not word-for-word translation from the Greek, but it's a lot more interpretation. Okay? So take it as like a team read the Bible and just completely redid it in its own way. Now check this out. The servant given 1,000, in the Message version, instead of 1 bag, it's 1,000. Okay, so just do some math there. The servant given 1,000 said, Master, I know you have high standards and hate careless ways, that you demand the best and make no allowances for error. I was afraid I might disappoint you, so I found a good hiding place to secure your money.
that interesting? Here it is, safe and sound down to the last second. Sounds confident, doesn't it? The master was fierce. That's a terrible way to live. It's criminal to live cautiously like that. If you knew I was after the best, why did you do less? The least you could have done would be to have invested some with the beggars, or at least I would have gotten a little interest. So you see, this is what Jesus' parable was talking about. Because the master isn't the one who sows the seeds. That's our job. But he reaps. He comes to the harvest and he's okay. What is the harvest, guys? And this is how the master tried to hide. Or rather, the third servant tried to hide. And to me, it convicted me because what you see in this third servant, the whole point, I believe, fundamentally why the third servant didn't do what was expected of him is because he didn't truly know his master. He didn't know his master. The master said, if you actually knew I was after the best, why did you do less? What does that mean? It means that he didn't know him. He didn't know his master well enough to know what was expected of him. You see where I'm getting at here, guys? And in the same way, if we don't understand our master, the master, then we will never know discipleship at all. Discipleship means nothing. Uncle Harlan laid it out in front of us so impactfully. I mean, he said the practical is, after this conference, is don't go out there and try and share your faith straight away. Go to God and let God reveal himself to you. Because if you do not know the master, you will never know discipleship. And that's the first point, guys. If we want even greater discipleship in our campus ministries, in our lives, we first have to know the master. So I put this picture here. Okay, how many of you guys know this place called Chick-fil-A? Chick-fil-A. Okay, I come from America, man. It's fast food. I come here, all the nasi padang. Wow, man, I miss it all. Yeah, I came here and devoured it straight away. But in America, we have fast food. Okay, like, I'll go and say the brother, oh, where's my hamburger? That's pretty much my diet. It's kind of bad. There's Taco Bell and there's other Mexican stuff, but either way, this is one you get. But I've never had Chick-fil-A. Why? Because it's not in Singapore, right?
It's good.
It is. So when I went, you know, some of the disciples there were like, bro, have you had Chick-fil-A? I was like, no. You never had Chick-fil-A? Was I supposed to? Is this like something you're supposed to do where you pass through immigration? Like, I don't understand. How have you not had Chick-fil-A? Come! I'm going to show you Chick-fil-A. Sure. This is my roommate. He drove me there. And he said, okay, now eat. Okay, sure. But I'm telling you, when I tried Chick-fil-A sauce, my life radically changed. It turned upside down! It really did. It was so funny. It's like if you have curry sauce from McDonald's and mayonnaise, I don't know how else to describe it. But it's like when you found curry sauce at McDonald's, right? You had it like, for the first time, you're like, whoa! Not bad, huh? Some of you shake your head flat out. I know, but the thing is, my point is that each one of you, I'm sure, have your own food that you really like.
Yeah.
And you may be too young to remember because obviously you probably had it when you were young. But this is so fresh for me because it was only 2 years ago when I first had it. But before you had it, you had no idea how good it really was. I had no idea. How was that Chick-fil-A? Look at that. Sounds like a funny chicken. Like, what are you talking about, man? But having it, my life changed. You know, it was so, I kind of have to confess, I would go there like 4 times a week.
No.
I would drive 15 minutes from my house, which in College Station, where I'm from the city, that's like the entire city. I would drive from one end to the other just to get this! Because it was so good. I couldn't stop having it. It was bad. I had to get discipling about that. It was free. Free range. But the point I'm trying trying to make, guys, is that I didn't know how sweet it was until I had the full experience myself. And that's what discipleship is. If you don't have the full experience of the gospel of Jesus' death for you and me, discipleship means nothing. Nothing. Doesn't mean anything. If God hasn't revealed himself to you, if you don't feel that connection, it's worthless. Why bother going and reaching out? Why bother giving more contribution? Why? And the answer is that if you don't really know what this really means, then I say, go take time to know it. Go take time to really understand this. Know the master. You see, going back to the text, the servant, he really didn't know his master well enough, which is why he didn't do what was expected. Now, granted, the guy saved the $1,000 or the one back, true? He said, see, here's every last cent I saved for you. So that's commendable. But the master didn't say, hey, come on, man, flat out. He says, you wicked! Wicked! That's not my words, that's red letter. That's verse 26. He says, you wicked servant. And it's because he didn't get what was expected of him, because he didn't know the master. And in turn, guys, I want to ask this question. Do you know the gospel for yourself? Do you know your calling as a disciple? Is it really embroidered into your hearts that you were at once lost? Does that really check in your heart, in your mind? Because a lot of us, perhaps we may have grown up in the church, we may have found church early on, we may have memorized all these scriptures. And so it can be kind of difficult sometimes to remember we at once were also lost. And a big problem with our generation is that we don't have this. We are lacking. We're lacking real authentic discipleship because we don't understand the true gospel of Jesus. We don't understand his love and his sacrifice. And that's why it's so incredible how this all connects with everything that we did yesterday and last weekend. Because if we don't individually get God's grace, then the church won't move. We will let it come down, and Satan will. So that's my question, guys. Do you know the gospel? Do you feel the gospel? I want to invite Haley to come and share some of her thoughts.
Amen. Craving some Chick-fil-A right now, so. But as David said, my name is Haley. I'm from Texas, and I'm just so grateful to be here with you today. It's been so amazing so far, hasn't it? And I think what's been so encouraging is to wake up early and see so many of you on your prayer walks and just singing with God together. It's been so incredible. And I just feel like these last 24 hours, it's been so great. I feel like the last night, Uncle Heaven's lesson, I feel like we could end right there, but I'm so grateful that we have so many more lessons and just worship to feed on. Amen. All right, so if you can turn to John 17:3, I just want to read this real quick as we point out knowing the master. So I'll just wait. You can say amen when you turn there.
Come on. Amen.
Right? Okay. So it says here, these are Jesus' words. Now this is eternal life, that they know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ whom you have sent. Now guys, this is Jesus' prayer before the cross. Can you imagine what must be going through his head right now? Can you imagine the pain and the anticipation he's about to experience as he's about to suffer and endure the cross for you? And I mean, I can't even imagine what that must be like. But what is his prayer? So that you can know God. And I just find that so moving and so powerful. And I think just reading the parable of the talents, it's just so, maybe you can relate. I feel like I see myself in the third servant in so many ways because I grew up in the church. I started studying the Bible when I was 11 and I got baptized at 14. So I was very young, but I was so familiar with God that I didn't have a personal connection with him. And so I think in so many ways I just deceived myself into thinking I was close with him because I knew the expectations. I knew Bible stories, got the Bible trivia down. I was humbled by the Bible trivia at the 30th anniversary. But I think it was hard because I couldn't get past that because I wasn't actively seeking the Word for its worth. I just thought that I knew him because I was so familiar with the songs, the Bible stories, everything. But when I was so impacted by my discipler when I was studying the Bible because she told me this quote, and I don't know who it's from, but it's amazing. But she said, "You can know the Bible without knowing God, but you cannot know God without knowing the Bible." And so I was so convicted because I had professed my faith so much, but I didn't possess it, and I didn't actively seek the Word to know God. I think like a third servant, I quickly assumed his expectations, and I think I can kind of trick myself into thinking, oh, I'm doing his work, like this is good. But my heart was not there. And I think, I had been given the talents that I had been given, I hid it, and I didn't put it to work. And so I think it wasn't until I came to terms with the cross, as I was studying the Bible, that I realized just how much I didn't know God. And it wasn't until I realized that it was my selfishness and my pride that nailed his wrists to the posts. It was my insecurity and my doubt that plunged through his feet. And it was my self-righteousness that pierced his side. And so it wasn't until I saw that I realized, oh my gosh, how do you respond to that, And so I think that's what I needed to do in order to know God, is to know where you are before him, before the cross. I want you to remember that moment. So much of like what Uncle Harlan shared last night. Just remember that moment where God revealed himself to you. And so I'm asking you to just remember that moment when the cross became real to you. Because it wasn't until then that I realized I was lost. I was a murderer, and I was in desperate need of Christ. So at that moment, I couldn't hold it any longer. I began actively seeking the Word, because it's only when you read the Word that you're able to understand God's heart. And so I want to just encourage you, actually, if you can turn to Hosea 6:3, I want to encourage you guys with this verse. It's pretty short, so if you don't have time to turn there, that's okay. But I feel like just in light of this past weekend, we had Uncle John had an incredible lesson on pressing on. So I found this so amazing as I was reading this in my quiet time. But it says in Hosea 6:3, "Let us acknowledge the Lord. Let us press on to acknowledge Him." So I don't know where you're at today. I don't know if maybe you're fresh out of the water and you're so on fire for God, and or maybe you've been a disciple for a couple of years and you're trying to reevaluate your walk with God, or maybe you've been suffering a lot of pain, heartbreak, or loss, or maybe you're just barely holding on, trying to have a consistent quiet time. So wherever you are, I just want you to know you're in good company. Welcome. I want you to take full advantage of this time as we're here with each other, but ultimately with God. Please make sure that you have intimate time with Him, to get to know Him and His Word, to pray on your knees, and just to have, especially when we're here out, just here at Eagles Ranch, there's so many beautiful places just to have time with God. So just remove the distractions. If you have to miss a World Cup game, just I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, it's okay. I'll probably watch something. So, but yeah, just make sure that you're here, just spending time with God. But anyway, thank you so much.
My own girlfriend cannot challenge me. No workout, thank you. But thanks, Haley. Just what you shared, it's something that I can relate to, and I know that I'm sharing all these things, but I personally was baptized this year. It'll be 10 years, and God, it's only through God. Like I'm telling you, I could go on and on about my testimony. I don't have time for that. But I even want to just talk about how, no matter how long you are in the faith, you need time to go back to God and reconnect with Him. Just this past Tuesday, I was feeling so overwhelmed. This is just purely out of confession. I was feeling so overwhelmed with my life. And I was just burnt out. I was like, what am I going to do? And I didn't know. There was stuff in my heart. There were rocks and thorns that I had to take out. And so I said, you know what? I need to just get lost. So I took the train. In Singapore, I went to Botanical Gardens. You guys know that? Yeah. I'm sure you do. And I went there. And it's a big place. There's a map, right? You can choose where you want to go. But I went there not knowing what was going to happen. There was something in my heart, and all I asked was, God, I don't know where this is going to go today. For the first time ever, really, I feel like I'm praying you, not knowing what the end of my prayer is going to go. But I need to find you. And so I decided I'm not going to set a destination. I'm just going to get lost. I'm going to walk around the Botanical Gardens and just experience the inward journey. And I was there. It was cool. I saw some swans. They were sweet. I kind of got some parallels between me and God. And then I passed by a lake. Half of it started raining, and then the other half didn't. And I was just marveling. Felt like Elijah seeing an earthquake. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then suddenly the rain, like more and more of the lake kept, having more rain. I'm like, oh, I think it's coming to me. So I ran and I looked around and I saw a gazebo there. And I thought, okay, I gotta go for this. So I went in there, and sure enough, it was cats and dogs for like 2-3 straight hours. So I thought, well, God, we stood up. Okay, well, we're here. But then I'm like, you know what? No, God, this was your plan. So I could be stuck here in this small little tent, this hut. And I thought, God, I need to find you. And so I journaled down thoughts for about 2+ hours. And afterwards, I was pretty much in tears. Because I was so convicted with my hard heart. And this wasn't like 5 years ago. This was last week. And for me, I know that I'm going to have another one of these moments, and another one, and another one. But until I don't get the message of the gospel of Christ, then I am not going to know true discipleship. And that's what I want to get across, brothers and sisters. Do you know Christ? And my very quick practical is for you guys to find your time to get lost. To go find a place. Maybe Gethsemane, maybe Botanical Gardens. It could be Yongbaru like that. Go and get lost. Go somewhere meaningful to you. And just say, God, I don't know what's going to happen. I know something is stirring. But all I know is I'm going to trust you. And I encourage you to get lost. Get lost in your walk with God. And He will come and draw near to you. And you will understand this. Amen. Second point. If we want to see even greater discipleship, you've got to be proactive. Just do it! I thought this is funny. But we go back to the passage, okay? Now, we've already read the NIV version, so I'm going to read the message version. Is that okay? So this is cool. We're going to now look at the 3 servants, okay? We're going to look back at their responses. After a long absence, the master of those 3 servants came back and settled up with them. The one given $5,000 showed him how he had doubled his investment. His master commended him. Good work. You did your job well. From now on, you eat my partner. Isn't that cool? The servant with $2,000 showed up and he showed how he had also doubled his master's investment. His master commended him. Good job. Good work. You did your job well. From now on, be my partner. And we've read this part already. The servant with the $1,000. Master, I know you have high standards and hate careless, that you demand the best. So I was afraid I might disappoint you. So I found a good hiding place and secured your money. And the master says, that's a terrible place to live. And I think when I'm sure after we leave this conference, we're going to be overwhelmed with, okay, I need to find God. I need that time with Him. And please don't do that first thing. Amen? But sometimes this is the other part of discipleship that's tricky. Because sometimes we go on the inward journey too long. Sometimes we get too lost in the inward journey. And we try and figure out, what is this, what is that, what is X plus Y? How do I do discipleship? How do I be a great disciple? And we don't become, we're inactive. And we look at the servants. The first 2 servants, they did something with what God gave them. They were stewards of the resource God gave them. They actually went and did something about it. That's what separated the first 2 from the last one. Last one was scared and he buried it. And inactivity in our faith is really inactivity is really going to hurt us in our lives if we don't understand that Jesus calls us to be proactive. And to me, the part that stands out again is, like I shared before, that Jesus dictates this parable, and he himself, with his own words, says that inactivity is wicked. It's lazy. And this is not to condemn you. Oh, all of you here are lazy. That's not the point. If you walk out with that point, then you don't know the master. But the idea here is that if we are not productive with what God has given us, and if we don't go out, then still we don't truly understand discipleship because they don't have it. The first two servants got it. It took risk. Notice that the first was given 5. How much did he invest? 5. All 5 of what he was given. Not 4, not 3, but 5. Jesus dictates that the second servant gave 2, everything that he had. That's risk. Because he doesn't know if he can get anything back. But he trusts God. He trusts his master. And he trusts the gifts that he's been given. He went out and did something. But the third one stayed in fear. Look at him. He was just too busy trying to bury his talent. Metaphorically and physically. I think the problem with inactivity for us in our lives is that we sometimes just don't understand that inactivity will slowly kill you. Inactivity in your faith will kill you. If you don't share your faith, you're losing your faith. If you aren't really going out there being radical about your inward sin or your outward sin, it will catch up to you. Discipleship is all about denying yourself. We can read Luke 9. We can read all parts of the gospel where Jesus says, you need to deny yourself. That's something you got to do. Not just know. Do. And if we evaluate this third servant, why he did it? Because he was fearful. He was scared. And that fear sucked him into this world of not being active. He lost that. He was kicked out, and he said there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's what uttered Jesus' words. And my question, guys, is where is your activity as a disciple today? I'm not trying to come across like I have a checklist that I'm asking you, hey, have you done this? Have you done this? That's old. That's old. We're not doing that anymore. You understand? But it's how's your heart? What's your effort like? Are you going in the first place? Because you see, what's so cool is Haley will talk about this more. But the master didn't care that the first guy only gave 5 more and the second one only gave 2. He said the exact same response back. So it really doesn't matter how much we give, but if we give, that is discipleship. And that's denying yourself. No matter how gifted and talented you may seem, it's about going out there and really being radical. I know one of the questions in the gala was how many like math? So I'm going to treat you guys with some math. Okay? Let's think. Master, how much? Okay, let's go with the NIV version. So we gave 5 talents, right? Second one, how many? 2. Third one, how many? 1. What? He does. So in total, how much did the master invest in his 3 servants? 8. Very good. Now, let's do some more math. So now the master come back from the long journey. How much did the master gain in total? 7. You 6. He got 5 extra from the first guy and 2 from the second. 5 plus 2 is 7. Use some quick math. What's 7 over 8? 87.5. 0.875. So think about this investment for a second. Collectively, the master invested money. He got back 87.5% of what he gave. Now, I don't know how many economics majors are in here, but if you are even sure that you can make some profit, that's like 87.5%. That's like, give my whole house, give everything I got. 87.5 is a great investment.
Yeah.
But notice, the master didn't say, yes, I got 87.5. All three of you, well done. He says, great, wicked. He does. And he evaluates not what you do as a group, but what you do as an individual. And we can get so wrapped up. We can get so lost in our big church and our big ministries, in our D groups. We get lost, because we're a collective. Oh, my leaders are doing something. Oh, my D group leaders. It's okay. See, it's all because of fear, really not knowing. Wicked. And so how is it for you personally, brothers and sisters? When I ask you how you're doing, it's not how is your ministry doing, it's not how is your D group, it's how are you doing? Where is your faith? Where is it? And if it's lost, I urge you to go and find it. We already talked about how to go find it. Go to God. But when that click happens, the faith takes care of itself. And that's my challenge. Find your faith and know what you're getting into. Do you hide? Are you hiding from the leaders? Are you hiding from your Bible talk? Are you scared to go to Bible talk? Or do you even lose interest in going to Bible talk? You treat it as another event to go to. What is this? Bible talks are full of friends. They're full of people. It's an incredible stepping stone to bring other friends in. They've got to be the lifeblood of our campus ministry. That's how we're gonna. It's a really helpful way, an effective, helpful way to bring people to Christ. Where's our faith, brothers and sisters? What are we doing with it? Another point I like to make about this third servant is that he was self-deceived. Isn't that true? Look at him. Here it is, safe and sound down to the last cent. Now, does that sound scared or does that sound kind of confident? A little confident. To the last cent. Here you go. Got it. I'll check. The pastor calls him wicked. He's like, huh? I wasn't expecting that. And the truth is, this guy was self-deceived. Self-deceived. Brothers and sisters, are you self-deceived about your faith? Personally, I want to share one of my semesters in my school back in America, and it was my third semester. My first semester I managed to be fruitful and God was glorious. Second semester, didn't have anyone that I was able to reach out to and bring amen. Third semester, I kind of carried those insecurities. I was feeling kind of, oh man, I guess I can't be used to God. Seriously. So third semester, just so happens, campus ministers haven't changed. So new campus ministers come in. And they want to try something different. So they say, all right guys, we're used to having it where Bible talks meet once a week, a day or two before your Bible talk to go share for like an hour. And that was habit. And we had 10, 15, 20 people out to Bible talk consistently. It was great. But it was, sometimes it was tiring out the students, so the campus ministers like, that's okay. We're going to encourage, we're not going to have mandatory, quote unquote, mandatory show up for sharing your faith. Go do it on your own. Use your own opportunities and reach out to your friends. And they did great lessons and they were awesome, they were convicted. But then, you know what happened in my head? I thought, ooh, now they're not going to check. Now they're not going to ask me how I'm doing in sharing my faith. They're not going to ask me. They're not going to know. And so then my heart became so hard as I grew on in the semester. I didn't share at all. I would show up to a Bible talk and do my thing, in the end we had like 5 or so visitors come out, and I was so self-deceived that I would challenge them. And I would say, why you guys not sharing your faith? I was so hard. It took one of my D groups I spent time with one of my brothers in the Bible talk. And he asked me a question. So, bro, I just want to share good news, man. I went out and I was so scared. This guy was white and he was huge, and I'm this Indian guy. He's another friend of mine. Not me, though. And he's coming out of Bible talk. I said, great, man. They said, how about you? How was your sharing this week? My heart sunk. Because then, all this time I've been, people would, preach lessons, or they would talk in discussions. Hey, it's good to share your faith. I would be defensive. I would say, hey, it's not about the numbers. Hello, it's about your heart. Where's your heart? Ooh. And I would put it back on them. I was self-deceived. See what I'm saying? And it took that spend time to just crush my heart open. Because I saw that I was letting myself go. And I wasn't being real. And it embarrasses me. But it's the truth. That's mine. And I don't know if you guys can relate. It may be self-deceit. It may just be flat-out fear. It may be a feeling of feeling inequipped and insecure. I don't know what it is for you. But you've got to cut it out. You've got to be open. Just go and get out. And it took confession after that to really get back on track. I'm so grateful for that brother because he really, really challenged me on that. And so again, that's my question. Are you self-deceived about discipleship? Do you have twisted ideas based on your own bias on what you think discipleship is? Or is it straight out of Scripture? I would invite Haley to come up again and share.
Alright, so to practice even greater discipleship, we got to be proactive. Now, I don't know if you're anything like me. Thank you. Immediately my brain starts spinning, where it's like, okay, I gotta have Bible talk, I gotta have this, do that, but as David was sharing, it's not about the results, it's about the heart. And he kind of briefly touched on this, but it's so interesting because it wasn't until I saw that technically, if you look on paper, that first servant produced a whole lot more than the other guy, but at the same time, they actually just doubled what they were given. But that doesn't matter, because the master was overjoyed with both of them. And I think I can sometimes deceive myself into thinking, oh, I didn't do enough, or I need to do more. And I think it's dangerous when we compare ourselves to each other as well. And so I want us to be mindful of that, because I think when you compare yourself, then insecurity kicks in, and then that leads to fear, and then you hide your talents, and God can't work with something that's hidden. So I just thought that was an important thing to touch on. But yeah, because it's not about how much we give, but that we give. And for me, I think I was self-deceived in terms of thinking that discipleship was a results-based faith, but that is so wrong. And so I want to share about a time that I think that really hit, clicked for me. When I was, since I became a disciple, it has been my lifelong dream to be on a mission team. It's something I had been praying about since I was 14, but again, I didn't know where God was going to lead me or when that was going to be, but I think I just had that dream in my heart of like, oh, one day I'm going to go on a mission team and do this and do great things for God. But I always thought it was going to be later on in life, so it wasn't until my third year of college that the call came that there was a church planting in Texas, in Corpus Christi, which is like the south tip by the ocean. And I got to meet the leaders that were coming through, and it was just a perfect time. There was a lot of closed doors in my life at that point. So to have that open door and to have a dream that I had been like praying for, I was so excited, and I couldn't wait. And so long story short, I prayed and God made it clear, opened all the doors. I was able to move in with a household. I had a sister. We were rooming with 2 other non-disciples. It was like a campus house sitting, and I just couldn't wait. I moved in, I said goodbye to my family, and I was like, all right, see ya, I'm going to do great things for God. I had this list or idea in my head of what it was going to look like. Like, I think I understood mentally, okay, it's going to be challenging. I know it's going to be hard. I'm going to have to pray a lot, get a lot of advice. But I had dreams that I was going to baptize my roommates. I was going to lead Bible talks. I was going to be close with my leaders. I was going to be super tight with the sisters that were there. We didn't have a campus ministry. There was about 4 of us. There was 3 sisters, and then 1 brother. And then eventually 1 brother moved in, but he was an hour away. So there was only the 4 of us on the campus. And so we were so fired up, and I was ready to go. But as we started passing by, Satan was attacking, and I started realizing, wait, what is this? I'm putting all my efforts and heart into this. Nothing's working. No one's studying the Bible. People we were, they get close, but then not want to get baptized. And then my dream to baptize my roommates fell. Or at least I thought it crashed and burned, because almost immediately my roommate fell away. And then I was left in a household of non-disciples. And then I was just stuck, because she was my partner. We were going to do this together. And then I felt alone. And that brought a whole other side of just the world into the household, just with alcohol and boys. And it just was not a safe place anymore. And so then, okay, that wasn't home, it wasn't safe, so then I tried to turn to our sisters and our leaders, but for some reason we just couldn't connect, and that was so new for me, and I didn't know how to do that. And of course we're brothers and sisters in Christ, so we love each other regardless, but it is interesting, isn't it, when you have different personalities and you try to learn, okay, this is how we work, and it was challenging at first, and eventually with God we were able to overcome that. But for the time, I felt alone, and so the only thing I could do was to pray. And then I started realizing that it wasn't the results, it was the heart. And just kind of, I lost track. I was so focused on the fruits that I forgot the roots. And so I want to show you my Gethsemane. So this is Corpus Christi. So this is Ocean Drive, and I wish I had a better picture, but it was a cloudy day. But just imagine, like there's this little park that's kind of abandoned. You kind of have to. I don't know if I was supposed to climb over this fence, but I did. So I don't know. But I can repent about later. But no. But there's this. So I forgot the name of the park, but it's really old, and it was actually in one of my favorite films. It was a scene that they shot. So anyway, I was super excited. So you can't see it in this picture, but that's that's downtown Corpus Christi. But then if you were to face this way, on the right is my university. It was on an island. So I would just, after class, I would just kind of either bike or walk to this spot, and I would sit here on the steps, and you can't see it in this picture, but the waves would sometimes crash on the steps as I prayed, and I just felt like this is the place where I was able to cry out to God, and God revealed himself to me, and I felt like in the sound of the waves and the birds that were flying by, like I could hear his voice, and I think I was just reminded that God was with me the whole time, and that he was pleased with me because I was seeking him and loving him. It wasn't because I couldn't baptize someone. That happens. You can't force people to be baptized. But just not losing heart and not losing faith. And so this is the place that I would turn to. And I think, there's going to be hardships in our lives, in our walks with God. There's going to be famines in terms of like fruit and just, you can feel unproductive, but don't let that scare you. I think it's important to just be reminded that even in those times, it's an inward journey, and I think that's important. And so sometimes we need to have those times to really reevaluate our walks with God. And just for me, I think looking back, I'm so grateful I went through those things, because honestly, I feel like my walk with God forever changed during that time. Because in hardships, I think you can either, it can drive you away or it can bring you to your knees. And so I think it's just so amazing to have those experiences, and I'm just grateful that God allowed that, because I think had I been given the results, I don't think I'd be standing before you today. I think I would be in a totally different place, even spiritually. So I'm just so grateful for that. So I just want to encourage you to find your Gethsemane. Go find your place that you can really be proactive, but on your knees first. Be proactive on your knees before you go on your feet. So I just want to encourage you with that.
I appreciate you being vulnerable. And I know we can all list out our times of feeling the slump of the ministry. But the challenge isn't on the results, the challenge is on your hearts. And that's all that we can ask for. I've got 3 practicals. Practical 1, pray hard. That's it. If we want to see our discipleship turn around, and if we want to see our ministries move, we've got to pray hard. It's incredible. If you do a real study on the book of Acts, and if you look at all the times where God moved and people came to church and people were baptized, they always prayed first. And if we want to move our own hearts and soften that before we go out, we pray. And my challenge is, what are you asking? What are you praying for? And are you praying? I think it's so bonding to pray as a ministry. And it's so, you can pray on your own, but praying as brothers and sisters, for the fight of discipleship. There's something about that that's so powerful. When 2 or 3 are in my name, I will be with you. So that's one challenge, or practical. Let's go play hard. Amen. Second, work hard. Once you pray hard, you work hard. Let me ask you something. You guys are students. If I asked you, say if I shut up. Hey, guess what, bro? I think I'm going to pray to God this semester that I'm going to get all A's. 4.0 or 5 in some other thing. And if I told you that, what would you say? Or you think you're well. I mean, sure, you probably say, amen, bro. By all means, you pray. Go pray hard. But what if that whole semester I didn't study? You think, oh, what on earth is this guy talking about? He's praying all about trying to do this, but he's not even studying? That doesn't make sense. And if you pray for your life, your discipleship to change, if you pray for the sins in your life to be renewed, but you're not being radical, it's the same for you. God will say, what are you doing? You can be praying about your ministry, but if you aren't sharing your faith, what are you doing? What are you doing? Do you want, and that really begs the question, do you truly want the ministry to go? Or is ministry and growth really the idol? That's my question. And so the practical is just go work hard. Go share some faith, man. Reach out to your friends. Share and do it scared. We talked about that last week, but do it scared. And you'll be radically transformed by what God can do as long as you have this simple faith that I'm just going to pray hard and work hard. I read a book, The Circle Maker, and a lovely quote that sticks with me is pray like it only depends on God, and work like it only depends on you. Yeah. Pray like God is the only one that can actually do this, but work as if it's only up to you. Now the truth is God is with you, so it never is only put on you. But if that's your mentality, you will change. You will change your own life and those around you. Amen. So pray hard, work hard, and play hard. Play hard. Play is so important. Community is what is going to reel people in. I was talking about Bible talks earlier. Bible talks, they really should be like the mini ministries within the campus ministry. They should be their own families, their own communities. And we talk, and in the Singapore church, there were lessons on community. And I think, guys, we can take our community higher. Amen. KL, Malaysia, the rest of Malaysia, Singapore, we can do it. We focus on the community and the play, and we build off of that with our prayer and with our hard work. The Lord will provide. Because these 3 things, pray hard, work hard, play hard. That's the book of Acts. If you read Acts 2, 42 to 47, that's the blueprint of the early church. It's exactly what they did. They prayed continuously. They met in each other's homes day by day. They prayed hard. And I believe they worked hard too. It doesn't say they were specifically sharing their faith in that passage, but they were doing, I believe that that's what they were doing wherever they went. Because not just in that passage, in the rest of the book of Acts, that's what they were doing. That is what they were doing. So they worked hard. And then they had community. They broke bread in each other's homes. They were hospitable. Dioko, as was preached last week in Singapore Church. Dioko, the Greek word for real, authentic hospitality. New Testament hospitality. And so, guys, I believe that if we want to see our discipleship be taken to the next level and see our lives change, then that's what we've got to do. Pray hard, work hard, and play hard. I want to end with a very quick illustration. 2 frogs sitting on a lily pad or a rock. One decides to jump off. How many left? Quick. Is this simple? Let me say again. 2 frogs on a rock. One decided to jump off. How many are left? The answer is 2. Because one frog only decided to jump off. But he actually didn't jump. Got you. And my question is, guys, after this conference, there are going to be a lot of things you decide to do. But are you going to do it? Are you going to take the leap of faith and jump? Are you going to really go out there and say, I need my refuge and my strength in God. I need to go to Him. And then what are you going to do about it? Plan with your ministries. Plan with your D groups. Plan on your own. How you can be an active disciple of Jesus. Amen. And I promise you, if that's your mentality, God will work. So that's it, guys. If we can really harness this, if we know the Master, if we be proactive in our faith, the Lord will provide. Amen. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Let's give David and Haley a big round of applause. I mean, they really preached. Great job, guys. I love your lesson. I mean, David is sweating. He was really working up here. You know, if you felt like yesterday you were listening to an old uncle and auntie, and you feel like, hey, I can't relate to this guy. Hey, that's why we gave you David and Haley. They are your peers, and your peers have spoken. But I know we were very convicted by Harlem and Vanya's message yesterday. And great job today. Really appreciate you guys sharing your hearts out. I really feel like we've got to take these lessons and make some serious decisions. I know that we said that we need to spend some time thinking about yesterday's. I hope you had some time. I spent some time this morning praying about Harlow's message yesterday. And yeah, to be reminded again, to be convicted about my relationship with God and how deep and real it is right now in my life. The beautiful thing about being a disciple is that you can have fresh starts any time of the day, any time of the year. And now David and Haley has come and talked to us about even greater discipleship. And I appreciate the fact that they made it simple. And that's true. You can't have discipleship unless you know the Master. And you cannot have real discipleship unless you decide to get proactive. And I like Haley's phrase, be proactive on your knees before you get proactive on your feet.